Dr. Sarah Larsen filling in for Dr. Parthenia Grant. We're so glad that you guys are tuning in today, and we're sending a shout out to the beautiful, amazing Dr. Parthenia Grant, who is not in studio. It's just myself and amazing, wonderful guest with us. He is so cute. And he just happens to be my husband and an expert on living in the present moment. He also is a life coach and author that really works with people on healing their relationships. Yeah. And today we're talking about finding love. It's so lovely to be able to do this show with Greg Larsen. This is Dr. Sarah Larsen. The reason that I love having Greg is because he's one of the most authentic people that I've ever met. And when I met him, I healed into being able to be my authentic, more loving self. And I wish that for everyone here to find love and to really allow yourself to experience yourself the way you are in love.
That is so beautifully said, Dr. Sarah Larsen. I was just ready to say baby, but...
Baby's okay for this one, since we're talking about finding love.
Well, I feel very blessed to have, gone through this journey I've been through, and then to have found love with you. Like I was telling you the other day, it's like, just when in your core, in every cell of your being, at the smallest minute level, that you are fully loved. It's such a powerful feeling and experience, and I have that with you, and I'm so deeply, deeply grateful.
And it's something that's really, we're passionate about creating. We were at a party last night, and it was the premiere party for your show in Norway, this Alt for Norge, and we were at the home of another cast member that was cast on the show with you, and this lovely spread that was created, this amazing party, this amazing gathering, and then we watched the show that aired in Norway, Alt for Norge, and at the end, when everyone was leaving, the cast member and I were just standing there talking along with all the other guests as they were leaving, and the comment that this beautiful, amazing woman that just did this, she got over and over again, is like, you're great, but you don't have a man. You're great, but you don't have a relationship. That show was so lovely. When are you going to put a ring on that finger? Your life is really, really good and fun and exciting, but there's no guy in your life. And eventually the talk went to eHarmony and Match.com, and this it was almost really, I felt so much for her in that position, because I remember being there. I know guys are there as well as these, and she's beautiful and amazing, and yet in all the success that we were celebrating last night, and the #1 show in, I think, Norway, was this lack of a relationship, lack of love in that context available.
Yeah, that was interesting when you were sharing that, because, like you just say, there was this amazing experience we just watched. It was the premiere of the show, so much excitement, and it was such an amazing journey for each individual. Yes. And almost like whether you're in a relationship or not was not even mentioned, really. Yeah, because it was such a personal journey of going to Norway to discover your roots and to compete for a chance to win a reunion with your family. It's like it was this really powerful journey, and aside from all of that, what people they were celebrating, of course, but what they were choosing to, the filter they were choosing to look at her through was, why aren't you with a man, or why aren't you why aren't you with a...
That's I think that's so, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's so right that we have such expectations placed on us in society with that question, and we're going to talk each about our 4 keys in that finding love scenario in today's show. Partly for this beautiful cast member, partly because we've so mastered it in our lives. When by the time that we met, we were there already with being the change, being it.
Yeah.
We also, at that party last night, this overwhelming theme came back to how we met.
Yes.
And where we met, and the story of that. And that was so amazing, just to walk up to you and say hi.
At a concert with thousands of people, outdoor concert in Nashville 10 years ago on July 10th. And
Cowboy Mouth was playing on stage, which was my favorite band from New Orleans, and I just made it back into the country from working abroad in service, and was getting licensed in the medical field, and I heard my favorite band was in town, so I ran to the concert so I wouldn't miss them. And my roommate at the time had played with Better Than Ezra. And so my roommate went backstage, and I was like, no, I want to experience it from up front, meeting the band and experiencing the presence of them out front, the way that they played. And I look over and I see Greg, and I say, hi. Are you John? My friend from high school, because you look just like he's a pediatrician. So I said, there's a pediatric convention in town. And Greg says, I don't believe in doctors. I'm not John, but I don't believe in doctors. And he says, you're not cutting anything out of me. That's our first conversation. And from that led into a really powerful connection, conversation even deeper.
Yeah, maybe that's why you were intrigued enough to go on a date with me, because here was some guy who wasn't, falling over backwards because you were a doctor. It was like...
Or just, or whatever else might be the case. So let's start with your first one. What do you feel is so important in finding love?
Yeah, this one, it probably is, very high up there. I don't know if it's the first one, but I was at a service with Agape, and Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith was speaking from the stage. It was so inspiring. I just love that man. I love Agape. But, the one thing he said during his message was that, as far as a key to finding love is that you need to let go of expectations.
Yes.
You need to block out what's coming from the media, what's coming from billboards, what's coming from magazines that's polluting your mind with all of these ideas and images which have nothing to do about finding love. It has everything to do with selling you something because they make you feel deficient, or they make you feel scared, or they make you fear that you're not going to get that. So you need to block all of that out and work on your vibration. Even block out, he was even saying, like, he didn't quite say this, but this is what I took from it. It's like, sometimes they say, write down a list, write out what your perfect, person is, write down what their eye colors are, what their job is, blah, 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 all stuff like that. He said, let go of all of that.
Let go of that list.
Let go of that list and work on your vibration, and allow your vibration to attract love to you. However it shows up, it might. Who knows what that person? I mean, I would have never thought I would have met someone like you. It just would have never crossed my mind. Meeting a medical doctor, it just would have never crossed my mind that I would have met someone in that profession. Meeting someone who was born in Pakistan, I would have never crossed my mind. But I was available to this love vibration, and I felt it immediately, and I felt how just so deeply you were able to love me that nothing else even mattered, actually. So that's so key right there, is to be the vibration that will attract that love to you.
Oh, that's so lovely. And I think one of the keys for me was recognizing your desire for a relationship. Really getting to the heart of and admitting to myself and sharing that out in a way that I really intended for and wanted to create and be available for a really conscious relationship. Up until that point, I was saying, and I tended to be a really nice person, very, very friendly, and I would, I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And so if anyone asked me out on a date, I would go out on a date with them once. And I would say, if we go out on a date, I'm only going out with you once. I don't go out on second dates. and I make myself available if I have time, and we'll definitely go out. And I had this big, long backstory of how I didn't want to hurt anyone in a relationship, but who I was truly afraid of hurting was myself. I would tell the guy that was asking me out that, you know, I don't kiss on a first date, I don't go out on a second date, don't get used to me, you know, I'm not available, because in my mind I was, this is what I was working on at the time, was charity work, and I didn't want to drag a relationship into the charity work, is the backstory that I had. But truthfully, I truly wanted a conscious relationship, and I was afraid of getting hurt. And so that story with you, I was able to drop it a little bit because I was out of town, and I was only in Nashville for a few weeks taking this exam training course, and I let myself become available. And in that which was, I wanted and I longed for a conscious relationship, and I dropped any, on an unconscious level, dropped any control of, you know, it has to look this way. We can go out once, but don't get used to me.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing right there, is to, you know, you have to, because one of the points I want to make, you know, you have to know that you're not going to meet anyone who's not wounded in some way, who does not need healing. And a relationship is one of the most powerful tools for healing. So not only are you going to be healing in it, and finding someone who can be space for that is so critical, but your partner is going to be healing. And so to have any expectation that they're going to somehow show up and just be all, and you know, it's just going to be, you know, only sunsets, beautiful sunsets from here on out. You're setting yourself up for a big disappointment, because we're here to heal each other. And what you're afraid of ultimately is it's going to be painful. It's going to be disappointing. It's going to be, you're going to be hurt. But if you can, you know, if you can stay true to that, knowing that underneath all that, God, I feel so loved. Which for me was always there, no matter, you know, all the different ups and downs we've had, all the different confrontations, you know, even though at that time it was painful and it's something I didn't want, and it was, you know, but I knew at the same time healing was happening, and I knew at the same time that underneath that there was this core that I fell in love with, which has never changed.
I think that's such a beautiful point. In underneath it all, we're all love, and we're making attempts to get our needs met, and we've constructed these rules and these ways of being to keep us safe. And the word that I like is vulnerable. I let myself become vulnerable with you, and when I became vulnerable, I actually healed.
That's right.
And so that was so beautiful. We're going to come back in a few minutes after these commercials and keep talking about finding love. My guest in studio is the divine Greg Larsen. His website, www.livingwithtolle.com. Welcome back. You're listening to Divine Love Talk with Dr. Parthenia Grant. Dr. Grant is not in today. I am filling in. This is Dr. Sarah Larsen. And in studio, I have I want to call you my darling husband, Greg Larsen. His website is Living with Tolle, which is your work with Eckhart Tolle, being present in the moment, the power of now, a new earth, and all of that. And you bring that into everyday alignment, everyday ways of being around it. So it's livingwithtolle.com. So thank you for making time to be here. It's such a great thing. We have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and really busy practices and busy businesses. And so it just is so lovely that we can be here doing what I love. So thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome.
We're talking about finding love, and what is your next insight that would be really helpful and someone really looking for that right now?
Yeah, earlier we talked about letting go of expectations, and another thing is to, let go of the past, which I think ties in a little bit, but it needs its own attention, because, so much of the lens we look at life through is clouded by the past, and so to move forward and be available for anything new, you really have to scrub away all that old debris, or the old baggage, or whatever you want to call that, so you can be available for what's new, or what is the truth of who you are now.
Yes.
I love it when watching The Secret. We were listening to that the other day. And one of the things I really remember from that, which was several years ago though, was James Arthur Ray was saying something to the effect that, when you're setting intentions, but you're still doing that from the past, you're talking about who you were.
Yes.
So you can, but to approach how you want to create something or how you want to attract something, you have to do that from who you are, which is your vibration. So you can't, go into relationships thinking, well, this won't work because this happened in the past, but that's not true. That's who you were, but that's not who you are. And so you really have to operate from who you are. And if you don't know what that is, then I would suggest that's what you need to do. Do the personal development work, the meditation, the yoga, whatever that is for you, so you can be embracing who you are and not letting who you were cloud your vibration, so you can attract a person who's meant for you as you are.
Which is such a great point in being who you are. When you have a desire, that desire expands you.
Yes.
Wanting and connecting to what you're truly intending to want, you expand yourself in wanting it, but to be able to receive it, for when you send the want out into the universe, the person coming back, that energy coming back to you, has to be able to be larger than the person that sent out that desire. And that means letting go. For me, that's my second point as well. And truly letting go is whatever your inner dialogue is, whatever your thoughts are, just allowing yourself to breathe and saying in your inner dialogue, what can I experience? What can I share? What can I do to make the next moment better? And when you have that inner dialogue and you practice this with yourself, you practice this with everyone that you're meeting, ultimately by the time that you're in the vibrational match of that which you sent out this desire with, when you're in the vibrational match for matching what you want, because you've practiced moment to moment, how can I accept this moment? How can I make the next one better? What choices, what thoughts, what words, what interaction can I do? And you just consciously bring yourself back to that thought. You will have expanded into that relationship that is ultimately a reflection of you in front of you.
That is so well said, because that is ultimately, how the process works, is doing just that. And when you were talking, what it brought to mind was just before I met you, I had been married before, went through divorce, and there was several years of healing there for me. And then, just a few weeks before I met you, I'll share that story when we come back from break.
Well, you can find me online at www.drsarahlarsen.com. You can find our amazing guest at www.livingwithtolle.com. And please come back. We're talking about finding love, and we're so excited to share the next part with you.
Feels good.
And we are back with Dr. Sarah Larsen filling in for Dr. Grant. I'm so excited to have more conversations with Greg Larsen of livingwithtolle.com. This is so beautiful. Is this something that, and I know the answer, but you help your clients with as well, finding love?
Every client comes to me for a specific reason, and sometimes it's relationships. A lot of time it has to do with money or their business or their career, but always the conversation turns towards relationships, because it's such a key part of life. And it's not an easy one to figure out, and it's a source of frustration and pain, but at the same time it's a source of deep nurturing and satisfaction and happiness and joy. So we know there's goodness there, and we stick with it, and we, even though he's being a jerk or whatever is going on, you just keep moving on, because and sometimes you get stuck and you stop growing and you don't know how it's going to ever work out, but you just have to keep growing. You have to keep being a model of growth for your spouse, your family, your kids, everyone around you, because it's without growth, you're going to get stuck, and then maybe your partner will have to leave you because you're not choosing to fulfill your part of the deal, which is to grow and evolve, because the whole universe, that's what it's doing, is doing that. So if you're not caught up in that vibration, that wave of growth, then you're stagnant, and your love is going to shrink. So
that we left on commercial break with you about to share this juicy story of seeing your ex-wife.
So as I'd mentioned, I'd been in a prior relationship, and then we got divorced, and there was a few years of healing there. And I was living in Nashville at the time as a singer-songwriter, so there was some very heartbroken themed messages in my songs.
Music.
And then, this was probably late June. I was back in Minnesota, and I went to go see my ex-wife, who was with her, I think it was her fiance at the time. And, I played all my country songs for her and him and this group of people that had gathered at their home. And, so I got to share myself so completely that day. And at the end of the day, when they said goodbye and they're walking away, they were holding hands and they kissed. And at that moment, I just knew that was it. Our relationship from that was over. I just felt that completeness. And so like I said, that was at the end of June. And they even asked me, do you think you're going to get married again, or you think you'll find someone? I was like, I'm such a free spirit. I'm going to travel the world. I got all these big plans with my music and stuff like that. I don't think I'll ever find someone who would go with me on this journey. And then 3 weeks later, I meet Dr. Sarah Larsen. Because I was this vibration of, this is what I wanted to be. I wanted to expand. I wanted to grow. I had this, I wanted to go do all this. And the universe matched that vibration. And I was just a clean slate, no expectations, no, this is who I want, this is what they need to be, none of that. I was just a complete, open, white piece of paper, but with this big, expansive vibration that I was living. And boom, it attracted you, so it works.
Which is what you do with a lot of your clients as well. Really letting go of the past and doing the work. The steps that you lay out are so lovely because you did them with me, and I was so able to let go of all the fear and all the past pain that kept me from being able to truly feel into myself. And so that brings us to our next point. And mine is living in alignment with the creation cycle, or being love. And what's your third point?
I think that was, I've come to a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about there. I'm not for sure. I didn't have a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
I had
you didn't? Okay.
Many
points to talk about, which was, this is your task. This is a quote by Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And that's, for me, living in alignment with the creation cycle is letting go of, finding and letting go of all the barriers that you built against it. And this other Rumi quote struck so home for me when I first heard it, because this is like, it's my story. The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you. And that's where I would have stopped. The first time I saw love on a screen, that's what I really, really experienced. I was searching for one of the movies that The Princess Bride was an expression of that. I have an Indian background, and so Hindi movies are so filled with these deep, rich love stories. And so the first minute I heard my love story, I began searching for you, and not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along.
Wow.
And that's the creation cycle there really speaks to, for me, that when you squeeze an orange, what you get out of it is orange juice. And when you put yourself, allow yourself to really, really be vulnerable, to share, not knowing what's going to come out of your mouth next, not knowing exactly what it's going to be, except for having gotten into a habit that it's going to make the next moment better or expand you or the person that you're with in some way. When you get into that internal dialogue and you're doing that, you're being in the creation cycle of being love. If you're experiencing yourself as being loving in the moment, you're reflecting back to someone else the ways that they shine, the ways that they are that really land for you somewhere. Or the ways that even being a little bit uncomfortable, like in our first conversation where you said, I don't believe in doctors. For me to be uncomfortable, but really being like, wow, this is different. You didn't shift or change who you were. You made yourself vulnerable. In that moment, I could have looked at you and just walked away like, what was that guy all about? Or knowing that I was uncomfortable standing there and exploring that in a vulnerable way with you to say, well, what do you mean by that? And that's, I was being loving and not coming from a preconceived way. And that was me being in a creation cycle, living into that alignment everywhere I go, reflecting back to the person what they're showing in a way that allows them to shine a light on what they're sharing in a way that makes sense for both of us.
That's so beautiful, because ultimately, you know, what you're saying is being a reflection, because that is so key, is, you know, working on yourself, being that for yourself, so you can reflect that back to your partner, because we can so easily get caught up in nitpicking and looking at all the differences, if you want to call them that, and then amplifying those. And so even though some of it might be true, you know, it doesn't need to be amplified, that's for sure. And so to continue to work on yourself and turn within, so you can just be a reflection of what you want what you want to see in the other person. That's how you do it. You don't. You can offer guidance, and you can suggest that they read a book, or you could suggest that maybe they do a personal development retreat or something like that. But ultimately, the most motivating, transformative approach is for you to work on yourself, for you to expand your own vibration of love, your own vibration of connection, whatever those are. And then in doing that, you will trigger that in the other.
And it's such a that whole point of squeezing an orange juice, and this is what you get. Relationships can often put the squeeze on you, or when you meet someone and it's in the heat of what's happening there that you get squeezed, and you get a little bit purified in essence what's coming out. And so that's really a key factor. Thank you for sharing that with how we allow ourselves to. Some of that work is doing these workshops. Some of it really is looking for something to be grateful for in that moment, not pushing the person that's right in front of you, not pushing that away, but really looking for ways to incorporate that into what's happening. And find something that you can be appreciative about. And for our men are so simple in their desires. Dr. James Beard did some research, and he studied 250,000 men, 250,000 women, and he only took the studies that men studied men and women studied women, and he found men just want 3 simple things in relationship. They want appreciation and respect. And so if you can create that, everywhere you go, you can if you can find something to appreciate or some way to show respect for the men in your life, you're opening them up to the next level, which is intimacy, whether it's physical or emotional. If they feel respected and appreciated, then they're able to get into this phase of sharing their feelings and sharing their what's occurring for them physically as well, the intimacy there. Then the third thing that they care about is her desire, her happiness, her desires, fulfilling that desires. And it's really that simple. I've heard him say, you thank a man for taking the trash out, and he will find trash to take out. And Dr. Beard did all of his work with Dr. Parthenia Grant. She was really his mentor and guide for facilitating that in his thesis. And so this is a shout out to the women that really do their work and hold the space like Dr. Grant does for so many of her students and so many of the people that she works with, inspiring to really hold that space of expecting more, and not an expectation of an outwardly way, but an inner way of seeing that person's greatness no matter what they're reflecting back in the moment, but being a stand for what their greatness ultimately is. Underneath that, all being love.
Yeah. And as you were talking there, it's this is all true, and this is all what needs focus and attention. But what was coming to me was, it's easy to talk about, and it's easy to read about, and it's easy to listen to other experts sharing this. But ultimately, when the rubber hits the road and you're in that space with your partner, and there's a confrontation, which is almost bound to happen unless you're one of the 2 or 3 enlightened people on the planet. I don't know how many are there, but there's not that many, and so there's gonna be confrontation. And it doesn't feel good, and you don't want it, and it's just like it's the worst feeling ever. And it's just finding strategies for those moments too. So when that arises, which I have turned to the teachings of Eckhart Tolle. That's where I find my tools and my guidance from. And one of the key things that I've picked up on, which I just have to repeat over and over and over again, because I know you so well, and I know that we're going to come back around to a very loving and nurturing space, is that this too will pass. No matter how heated it gets, and no matter how sharp the barbs are, it doesn't matter what those are, it's going to pass. This too shall pass. And if I can just hang on to that deep, deep wisdom and embody that until this storm passes, then on the other side, what I want will be there, and what fulfills me will be there, and who I love will be there.
And I wear a ring sometimes and I'm misplaced. I wear a ring, and I'll turn the ring to remind me to breathe. Yeah. And this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And so I have those physical cues on me to allow me, if there's an uncomfortable feeling or a tension happening, I'll turn the ring. And the other one that I really love is turning the other cheek. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. And turning the other cheek. And what that for me really represents is meeting everyone with fresh eyes, with this understanding of they're doing the best they can. If they could be doing any better, they would be. And forgive them. And my part is to stay as connected to the current moment with this too shall pass, and forgive them, for they know not what they do.
That's something that's kind of been, the way we say it in our relationship is, before you do anything, you're forgiven, or you're forgiven before you do anything.
And it's become a personal mantra for me to try things out. For me, saying hi to someone, not knowing how to say hi to them possibly is, I say to myself, you're forgiven before you even do it. And to me, that means I can take more risks and take more challenges in every area. We've worked it out with ourselves so much. You're forgiven before you do anything. I know in our relationship, I'm forgiven.
Yes.
Whatever is going on, we're going to this reset, maybe even higher point in our lives.
Yeah.
And for me, it's become a personal way of relating to the world so that I can say whatever vulnerably that's coming out of my mouth and out of my thoughts to create a better moment, to share that, knowing that it's forgiven before I don't have to be perfect and that's been a really healing thing for me as well.
Because it is a healing journey. Relationships are probably one of the highest things relationships do is they are a journey of healing. So if you can acknowledge that, recognize that, contribute to that for the other person and for yourself, relationship for you will be much more fruitful, joyous, satisfying, all of that.
And so we'll be back with Greg Larsen of livingwithtolle.com and myself, Dr. Sarah Larsen. We're so glad you're here. More on finding love when we return. And we're back. This is Dr. Sarah Larsen filling in for Dr. Parthenia Grant. I'm in studio with Greg Larsen of Living with Tolle. And we so love you. We're so glad that you're here with us because we're talking about something we really love, finding love.
Yeah.
And in this last few minutes, really talking some of the most important things you want to share.
Well, all I can say is that from first-hand experience, finding love and having a relationship like I have with you is just so awesome, amazing. It's part of what makes a human experience so rich. I'm so grateful I found you, so grateful I have this depth of love in my life, and I would wish that for every human being. And so I've attracted it myself, and so I know it happens. And so I know everyone out there listening who's looking for love, who's wanting to have that type of love in your life, it's possible. You can get there. You can attract this. And, you know, all that we've talked about today, you know, letting go, healing the past, all these things, and even what you're going to say, because we have a power to manifest.
Right. That's my last point is unlocking your manifesting ability. And it's really, truly a vibration that's inside you. It's in the palm of your hands. It's in the energy that you're walking around with moment to moment. And manifesting, just the root of the word is mani, which is hand, festing, celebrating what's in your hand right there, simply said. Finding something to celebrate. And that is one of the keys for finding love. This is a D.H. Lawrence quote. Those that go searching for love only manifest their lovelessness, and the loveless find love. Only the loving find love. They never seek for it. So whatever love you have in your hand already, to celebrate that, whatever is around you, whatever people and friends are present, to celebrate that, and just continually going into this celebration of what is around you is a simple way of saying unlocking your manifesting ability. It shows up so beautifully, and I'm so grateful that through finding you, through finding love, to letting myself overcome all my fears around it. 2 beautiful children, an amazing friendship of people throughout the world now that support us in our work through that. And we created that by being vulnerable and by letting each other see ourselves, not hiding anything.
That's exactly it right there. Being love.
Being love.
Is how we find love.
Yes. Yeah. Being love. Oh, with that, we're sending big hugs out to you guys. Thank you for joining us. And this is Divine Love Talk. You can find me on drsarahlarsen.com. You can find Greg on livingwithtolle.com. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah Larsen, for this amazing conversation.
Thank y'all.